Have you ever opened the Bible, seen those long, long lists of names, the epic histories of nations and kings, and just kind of wondered, okay, where do I fit into all of this? How does a story about ancient generations become a story about me right now? Well, that is the big question we are tackling today. And really, this is the question at the heart of it all. When you're faced with these huge, sweeping historical accounts, it is so easy to feel a little disconnected, right? A little lost. So how do we find our own reflection in this ancient mirror? How does their story become our story? Let's find out. So, here's our roadmap. We're going to approach this whole thing like a giant funnel. We'll start super wide, looking at the story of entire generations. Then we'll narrow down to the absolute center of that story. From there, we'll see how the camera zooms right in on the individual. And finally, we'll talk about what it means to make that story your own.
Okay, first things first, we have to get our heads around how the Bible measures time. It doesn't just think in days or years. It thinks in these massive, sweeping blocks of history, all tied together by family and lineage.
And that brings us to our first key word, this Greek term you see right here, geneia. Now, this is so cool. It comes from a root word that means to become or to exist. So a generation isn't just a static group of people. It's this living, breathing collective that is literally becoming something together, sharing one single story as they move through time. It is all about the us. And you can see this idea in action, like right away in the New Testament. The Gospel of Matthew kicks off by organizing all of history into these neat little blocks of 14 genia, 14 generations. Now, what does that tell you? It's basically shouting at us that history isn't random. It's a structured story. It has a clear direction, and it's moving toward a very specific destination. So if it's moving somewhere, where is it going? Well, that brings us to the next point. This long chain of generations, this epic story of the collective. It wasn't aimless. It was all pointing to one single history-shattering moment. This verse from 1 Corinthians, it's absolutely huge. It basically sets up two representatives for all of humanity. You've got Adam, and in him, we all share one story, a story that ends in death. But then, you've got Christ, and in him, a completely new story begins for everyone. He's the focal point, the one that all those generations were leading up to. So here's the thing. Christ's arrival doesn't just continue the old story. It starts a brand new one. The writers even use a special Greek word for this, tagma. It means a new arranged order, or a new sequence. See, Christ isn't just another link in the chain. He is the beginning of a totally new divine order, a new way for humanity to exist. And this, right here, is where the story takes a fascinating and very personal turn. And this is where that funnel we talked about really starts to narrow. We've seen the story of the collective, the geneia. We've seen the turning point in Christ. And now, the focus shifts dramatically from the story of everyone to the story of each one. And this shift is so important that, you guessed it, there's a specific word for it, Hekastos. Now, if geneia was all about the group, Hekastos is the exact opposite. It's a word that deliberately breaks the group apart, focusing on each person, one by one. This is the word the biblical authors pull out when that big collective story suddenly demands a personal response from you. And once you start looking for this word, you see it everywhere. It's not the generation gives an account. No, it's each one will give an account. It's not the Spirit is given to the group. It's to each one the Spirit is given. Over and over again, the focus just hammers down on individual responsibility, personal salvation, and a unique calling. The story of the group becomes a direct call to you. And if Hekastos wasn't personal enough, the writers often doubled down with the word Idios. It means one's own, private, personal. It's where we get our word idiot, which originally just meant a private person, separate from the public square. So you carry your own load. You go to your own home. You have your own personal faith. It doesn't get any more individual than that. So let's just put it all together for a second. On one hand, you have geneia, the grand, sweeping story of generations, the shared history we are all a part of. But on the other hand, you have Hekastos and Idios, the call for each and every individual to find their own personal place inside that bigger story. It's a fundamental shift from the crowd to the person. So this brings us all the way back to where we started. How does this massive, ancient story become my story? Well, the answer is found in understanding this incredible, intentional shift in focus.
You see, it was always designed this way. The entire history of generations, the whole genia, was funneling down toward a single point, Jesus Christ. And through him, a totally new order, a new tagma, was created. And in this new order, the invitation is no longer just to a nation or a people. It's to Hekastos, to each and every person individually. It's an invitation for you to step into the story. So the takeaway is this: the biblical story is not just about people who lived thousands of years ago. It's a story that purposefully narrows its focus and narrows until it's looking directly at you, asking for your response. The grand narrative of history has a chapter with your name on it. The only question left is, what will it say?